So I'm really excited for the new Batman movie, and the villains are a large part of that. I'm really excited with the new casting that has been coming out and has been confirmed by Matt Reeves himself. I'm ready to see the Riddler once again, but with all that, I thought I would just go ahead and rank the Batman villains we already have, just do it in a tier list to make it fast and easy. So firstly, I'm just going to get through the villains that are just okay and they're there, they serve their purpose. So Falcone falls into that category, and so does Maroni. They're not bad, they're not great. Lau also falls into that. Actually, I'm going to move Falcone to the B tier because I do think he did more than these two and served more of a purpose in Batman Begins than these two did in The Dark Knight. And before we get to the costumed and more showing villains, I'll go ahead and do Max Schreck as well. I think he's in the B tier with Carmine Falcone. I think he is better than Falcone. I think he serves more of a purpose in Batman Returns, and Christopher Walken's performance is absolutely great. He is menacing, he is a fantastic threat, and he creates Catwoman in the movie, of course. So he actually does a lot and is extremely entertaining. Now I'll go ahead and do some of these lesser villains, and most of those are from Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, the Schumacher films. So we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Freeze since he's the first one I see. He is an F tier. Like, Mr. Freeze is so cheesy in that movie. The whole movie is memorable because of the ice puns, and that's about it. And that's saying something, but Mr. Freeze is just awful. I don't even hate Batman and Robin, but there's no way around the fact that he's just that bad. Bane, it wasn't even Bane. Like, it's kind of sad that we haven't gotten a Bane in a movie yet that's more comic accurate in terms of looks than this, but in terms of intelligence and personality and literally everything except for an appearance, this Bane isn't Bane. He's awful. He's just a dumb goon that Batman and Robin have to take down, or that actually Robin and Batgirl take down. Now Poison Ivy, she's not great because the script wasn't great, but I think Uma Thurman knew what movie she was in Batman and Robin and isn't terrible. I think she's in a league above Freeze and Bane, so I'm gonna put her in the D tier. And Riddler, I'm going to put him in the D tier with Ivy, but that's just because Jim Carrey's performance isn't necessarily bad, it's just not the Riddler. So even though Jim Carrey is basically playing himself in this movie, since his performance isn't too bad, it's the writing that makes the Riddler so bad, I'm going to give Jim Carrey some respect and put him in the D tier. And now on to Two-Face. He will go in the F tier because I think he was absolutely awful in Batman Forever. He was basically just the Joker, but much, much worse. Now, before we get into the more elite villains, in my opinion, I'll go ahead and put Talia al Ghul in the C tier with Maroni and Lau. I do think she's a bit worse than Falcone and Schreck. Although she was really the mastermind, the manipulator behind The Dark Knight Rises, I think Bane just outshines her so easily. Bane and Catwoman both in that movie. And she didn't really have too much of a role in it besides fucking Bruce until the end of the movie. So yeah, she's not as bad as Ivy or Riddler, but she's not on the level of Schreck either. Now getting into the big players. Catwoman from Batman Returns. I think this was the best performance in a Batman movie other than maybe Keaton and Batman 89 and Returns, because I do love Keaton as Batman, but I think this is probably the best villain performance before Heath Ledger. Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman is absolutely amazing, and she is the standout of this movie. I think Danny DeVito is amazing as the Penguin as well, but Catwoman is an elite character in this movie, and I just love what they did with the character and how sadistic this Catwoman can be. I just like the darker take on Catwoman. The darker and weirder take for Catwoman works for me, and this is actually one of my favorite versions of the character I've ever seen. And since Michelle Pfeiffer's performance was so great, I'm going to put her in the S tier. And I'll go ahead and do Penguin since I'm on the topic of Batman Returns. I do think Danny DeVito's Penguin gets a bit outshined by Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, but not by too much. Penguin is the main villain of the movie. Penguin's plan in the movie is really weird as he's sending a bunch of penguins marching and planning on blowing up Gotham or something like that. I don't know. He has a bunch of penguins with rockets behind their backs, and it's pretty nuts. And Penguin's whole thing running for mayor was kind of weird, and I don't know, it was weird, but this is a Tim Burton movie, so I'm okay with all that being weird, because, like I said about Catwoman, this is one of my favorite versions of the Penguin, and I absolutely love it. I don't think he's quite on the level of Catwoman, though, but I do think he is a bit better than Shrek and Falcone, so I will put him in the A tier. Now, Jack Nicholson's Joker, the first major Batman villain to appear in a movie. He was the star of the movie, obviously. That's how a lot of the Batman movies are, the villain as the star, which is why this is such a fun video to make. But Jack Nicholson, for a while, revolutionized the Joker until Mark Hamill, in my opinion. Some would say until Heath Ledger. He was the big screen Joker until Heath Ledger came, of course. And Nicholson's performance is closer to a comic Joker than, say, Ledger's is, but it works for the movie. That time period, and how dark but campy and fun Nicholson's Joker is absolutely great. All the classic Joker stuff you get from this version of the Joker is amazing. You get the giant pistol he has at the end of the movie when he's shooting down the Batwing. That's one of the best things still, and this is, I believe, the only Batman movie, at least live action, that we've gotten the Joy Buzzer on the hand, which was a nice touch when he fried the dude in the meeting. So yeah, I'm going to put Jack Nicholson's Joker with Danny DeVito's Penguin in the A tier. I don't think he's quite as good as Pfeiffer's Catwoman. Scarecrow is great and Batman Begins really memorable, and I think Batman Begins is the best you could probably do Scarecrow in a more realistic situation, a more grounded world like Nolan was trying to pull off. I don't think Scarecrow was the best villain for that, but I think they made it work, like they made Ra's al Ghul work. So I'm going to put him in the A tier along with DeVito and Joker. He's really great and memorable. Anne Hathaway's Catwoman, a lot of people actually like her more than Michelle Pfeiffer, and then another fair majority don't. It's about half and half, I'd say, maybe a little more leaning towards Pfeiffer. But I think Pfeiffer's Catwoman far outshines Anne Hathaway's. And I think Anne Hathaway, she gives a great performance, but it's just more the characterization of Catwoman in this movie that I'm not a massive fan of. I don't know why, but I've never been a huge fan of Catwoman as a character. I think that's why I loved Batman Returns version so much, because it was so different. And I know she has a lot of different versions of her character in the comics, but I've never been a huge fan of the whole cat burglar thing. And I don't know why, because it's really basic. And, I mean, it's not a bad stick to have, but I've just never been a huge fan of that, although it does make sense. But her performance is great, her chemistry with Batman is great. I don't think she's quite as good as these past three, so I'm going to put her in the B tier. And we'll skip Heath Ledger's Joker for now and go on to Tom Hardy's Bane. I think Tom Hardy helped make Bane a more iconic Batman villain. Although Bane was iconic before this, of course, for being known as the man that broke the bat. Just after the first trailer, Bane's voice, that's all you heard about. People were mimicking it, people were making fun of it, people were loving it. And you still hear that voice today. 8 years later, and people still mimic that voice. People still hear that voice in their heads when they think of Bane. And it's because of this performance and this portrayal of the character. The look isn't at all comic accurate, which I would have preferred a more comic accurate looking Bane, but the intelligence on display, the stealth, the strength, everything about Bane's characterization in this movie I absolutely love, and Tom Hardy of course gives a great performance. So I'm going to put Bane in the A tier. And we'll save the Dark Knight villains for last and go to Ra's al Ghul. So Neeson's performance is great, he gave the performance of his life. I love that you think he's Ducard at first, and then halfway through the movie he reveals himself as Ra's al Ghul. It's just a really good twist and a really good way to bring Bruce's story full circle. Ducard was the man that trained him, and all that time Bruce didn't know he was actually Ra's al Ghul, reveals himself as Ra's al Ghul, and the way Batman beats him is through everything that he taught him. But yeah, I think this is a pretty accurate representation of Ra's al Ghul's character. And I just love Ra's al Ghul as a villain. I think Neeson gave a great performance. The characterization was great. And I don't know when we'll see this performance be topped, when we see this take on the character be topped, or when we'll even get another take on Talia al Ghul. So yeah, I'm going to put Talia al Ghul in the A tier. A lot of villains in the A tier right now. And another one's about to join them. Two-Face is great in The Dark Knight, but I think he just needed a little more screen time to be in the S tier, on the S tier level. The time he did have was absolutely fantastic, and how Nolan portrayed that it just takes one day, much like the Joker always says. One bad day can turn a man into a monster. The way Nolan portrays that through Two-Face is absolutely amazing. I just think we should have seen more of Harvey as the villain for him to edge out some of these others, like Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, or the villain I'm about to get to next. So yes, Two-Face from The Dark Knight is in the A tier. And Heath Ledger's Joker. This version of the Joker, at least in terms of live action when it comes to Batman villains, is in a league of his own. I know I've already put Catwoman in the S tier, but this version of the Joker deserves something higher, something more than the S tier, because he is that good. He is that memorable, he is that menacing, he is that threatening, he is that scary. The Joker is a sadistic, evil, conniving genius in this movie. He knows what everyone's gonna do before they do it, and all the cards fall into the right place for him. His plans are perfection. He is a master strategist. Heath Ledger's performance was revolutionary and still is revolutionary. And this was just the most fun I've seen a villain interacting with Batman in live action ever. So I'm going to put Heath Ledger's Joker in his own tier above the rest of these villains, because he was that good. Heath Ledger's Joker is going in the S+ tier. I'm sorry, I couldn't do Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman dirty because I do think she's amazing. I do think she deserves to be in the S tier. But Ledger's Joker is so much better, which is amazing. His performance was better than great. So as always, I kind of rearranged the list to make it more accurate of my actual ranking of the villains. But yeah, that's my ranking of all the villains we've had in live-action Batman movies so far. Let me know yours down in the comments below. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.